Hey, kings and queens.
Welcome back to In Between the Speaks. I'm Art,
And I'm Marie.
and today we're going to dive into a real conversation about what it means to move from just being roommates to being true partners in a marriage.
And we're not talking about the casual, we live together kind of roommate vibe. We mean the real work of learning to share space, merge two lives, and figure out how to actually be married.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to be honest, for us, it hasn't really always been very easy. And I'll start by saying, I didn't really grow up with a clear blueprint for marriage. My parents weren't married. And I wasn't even raised by them. I was raised by my grandmother.
And she did an amazing job, babe.
Yeah, God rest her soul, she really did. But as a kid, the only example of marriage I had was my uncle who lived in South Jersey. He had a wife, 3 kids, a house. From the outside looking in, it seemed like they had structure. But I was an only child, even though I had a bunch of brothers and sisters. I was living by myself, and I wasn't really great at sharing. I like things my own way.
And then you met me.
Exactly. And when Marie and I first moved in together, I'll be honest, I wasn't really even a big fan of the idea. Circumstances kind of pushed us into it. We went from dating to dating and now living together kind of real quick.
And for me, I came in with a different lens. I've been married before for years, almost 12, and I was raising teenage sons. So for me, sharing space wasn't new. Compromise wasn't new. And I had all the lived experience of what it takes to run a household.
See, but that's where our differences kind of really showed.
Oh, yes. For example, what clean means.
Yeah. In my head, clean means everything in its place, no piles, no mess, no clutter.
And in my head, clean means lived in but not nasty. You can relax, you can put something down without feeling like you're being policed.
Well, to me, it always looked like stuff was just lying around, so I get frustrated. You got piles of stuff all over the place. Don't you see this stuff lying here?
And from my perspective, I'd be like, why are you so pressed about that? We're fine.
This is kind of where we really felt more like roommates than partners. It was like we both lived here, but we weren't always kind of living together.
Exactly. Roommates split chores. Roommates negotiate over dishes and trash. Roommates have their corners and expectations.
Yeah, but partners have to step back, and ask, is this a real issue, or is this just my own personal hang-up?
That was the turning point. When you started to see, okay, maybe this is more about my own expectations than about what's right or wrong.
Yeah, and to be honest, that wasn't easy because in my head, I was the one that was always making the most compromises.
And you probably still feel that way.
Yeah, real facts, I do. But, I've always learned that compromise isn't really about trying to keep score.
So here's the shift. We had to stop treating each other like roommates who tolerated one another's quirks and start treating each other like partners who learn from one another.
Yeah, so that meant I had to practice patience, and not make my preferences the gospel, of our relationship.
And I had to practice empathy to understand where your structure came from. That as an only child without a blueprint for marriage, this was new territory.
Exactly. And the more time passed, the more I realized partnership isn't about winning the argument or getting my way. It's about finding our way kind of together.
And we did that by listening, laughing, and sometimes letting things go.
So if you're listening to this and you feel like your spouse, is more like a roommate than, your partner, you got to know that you're not alone.
It takes time. It takes patience. It takes compromise. And it takes being willing to admit that some of your biggest frustrations aren't about your spouse at all. They're about you.
Yeah, that's the part. Your expectations, your hang-ups, your need to control. When you can own that, you can create space for more partnership.
And when you do that, you stop keeping score and start building a marriage.
That's how we learn to go from roommates to partners.
And how we're still learning every single day.
So thanks for joining us on In Between the Speaks.
If this episode resonated with you, share it with your partner or friend or family. Have the conversation about where you're still acting like roommates and how you can move forward to true partnership.
And remember, marriage isn't about perfection.
It's about intention.
So we'll
See you next time. Be blessed.